Hello, my fellow readers. I, Dark Symphony 777, with a new fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below, as well as the link to my Discord. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the fan fiction, any future fan fictions you want me to read or review. And as always, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, I apologize for not really doing any fan fictions videos in a little bit. I've been sick, hence why you only been seeing gameplay footage. I'm tired. I might take a nap after this video. I also been doing a lot of stuff involving a costume that I'm doing for a costume party on Halloween, and also job shenanigans. So I just wanted to let that know. So, the story we are reviewing is Angseth by Cheshire Cat 24. It is a Metroid adventure sci-fi story, and it's a really, really good story. This story actually came very close to being probably my favorite story of all time, if not for a couple problems near the end. Oh god, I'm tired. So, let's get started with the story. So, the first thing you must know about the story is the fact it's technically what I like to call a theory story. Basically, a theory story is any story that kind of elaborates on a theory in a game, movie. What say you? Like, it's a popular theory that at one point or another, and so the story is basically just saying, hey, here's a conclusion to that, or a continuation of that, or some fan fictions even just touch upon it in some way. And so the theory this story touches upon is the Angseth is alive theory. It's from Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes was a 2004 game made by Retro Studios. It was the second of the now 6 if you count Hunters and Federation Force. Sorry about that. I need to stop yawning during my videos. I thought these were my high. It is actually a really underrated game. It's probably the weakest of the trilogy. I personally think Corruption is the best. I just think, the Wiimote controls really helped it out a lot. I made it more fun. Let's see. And this theory is I already said that. Sorry, I'm a little bit rusty, so you can tell. So the theory goes that at the beginning of Echoes, you come across 2 dead squadrons of Federation troops. And one of them is a person by the name of Angseth, who's actually a Samus Aran fangirl. At this point in time in the game, Samus was just starting to become slightly known. Because at this point in time, Samus was still sort of a legend, like sort of a myth. But she was starting to become known. And so the theory goes that Mavera, since her visor was blanked out instead of everyone else's, which was lighted up, she survived. Now the theory is actually false. If you actually look closely in the Wii version of Echoes on the Metroid Prime trilogy, she's actually dead. If you'll see the flies around there. This story specifically takes place 20 years after the events of Aether. So Mavera, that's her name in the story, is now the captain of her own ship. She had a fruitful career. She's in her 40s now. And so she was offered one last she said she's going to have one more mission, and it was to help another ship aid a science vessel to the ruins of SR-388, the Metroid homeworld. And she's immediately suspicious. And she's like, okay, after this, I'm retiring. I'm done. Because, a military man, unless they're, doing, paper pushing, or they're really the whole military aspect. They usually don't stay until usually don't stay past their late 30s. So they go on. She goes to help the science vessel out, and then they come across this SOS from a ship called the Seattle. So they go to investigate it. It was under attack by a space pirate. fleet, where Mavera comes across Samus and Ridley fighting. And so, Ridley manages to get away. Samus goes after him. Angseth goes to, wants to help her and figure out what happened to Seattle. So she's like, you know what? You saved my butt on Aether. I'm going to save your butt. And she goes to help her. And then we get this really big science fiction-y drama adventure. I know the genres is adventure, sci-fi, but you can kind of throw in drama in that as well, because it does have a lot of drama elements as well. So Angseth finds out that Samus became pretty much an actual Metroid person. Samus gets captured for unknown reasons, and Angseth kind of gets spooked by her look, because she's like very, very opaque, and she has like a skull, and like you don't even see her skin anymore. You see her skull and the eyeballs falling out, and she gets freaked out. She gets a message from Samus before that saying, "Here's a file." So Angseth goes to Talon 4, loses her arm in the process. She's actually pretty banged up. She has like a bunch of scars. She's missing a leg, and then sooner or later she misses the arm. She loses an arm, and she's picked up by Chozo, where she's detoxed because it turns out her body was radically absorbing leftover phazon, which is real world applications of radiation. If you actually know how radiation works, radiation takes a while to decay and wipe it and kind of clean stuff out. Like hence the reason why we don't go into Chernobyl anymore, because scientists say it's still going to take another around 70 years before we can even enter the outskirts. Like we have to literally, like if I remember right, you literally have to like tape your car and do all these precautions and stay in the car just to be able to enter the city, because it decayed at least a little bit to the point it's not going to penetrate cars. But you even with like radiation suits, there's a very high risk that you're going to get radiation sickness. And scientists say it's going to take like 70 years just to be able to enter the very, very outskirts of the city. Like you can enter like the border, it's going to get slowly smaller over the years combined until eventually, we'll be able to inhabit it again. When that will happen, who knows when, but 70 years just to be able to enter the outskirts, we could probably, I don't know. And then Angseth meets Weevil. Weevil, of course, is a character from the Hunters spinoff, I guess you can kind of say. And they realize that Samus wants both of them to team up to help her cure herself and save her. And so they go on this big adventure to trying to find out the truth of what happened. She found out Ridley's actually a Chozo in this story. Chozo kind of helped. They're about to get ready for a civil war between two of their tribes, and they give Angseth the mission: find Samus to stop the civil war. So it's like, okay. And so she goes all across this parts of the universe to try and find out where Samus is. And the end of that part, I'm just gonna leave intentionally vague because I don't want to spoil everything that happens. There's a big battle. Kanan shows up. Angseth, kind of has this, fights clones of Samus. And then at the end, Angseth kind of dies. Yeah, I might as well spoil this. At the end, Angseth dies, and then she's reborn as like a full synthetic cyborg, bio android, whatever you want to call it. She becomes the boss of this renegade space station called planet called Rovian, where she's like, okay, fine, something. And the story ends with Samus in her own way kind of thanking her for saving her, saying, see you next mission. And overall, the plot was executed really, really well done until the final act. For simplicity's sake, I decided to separate the chapters into 3 acts, like a lot of dramas. Act 1 is chapters 1 to 15. Act 2 is chapter 16 to 26, and Act 3 is chapter 27 to 32. And in terms of plot, the plot was amazing, phenomenal. So seeing this, old veteran in Angseth wanting to, want to return a favor that she was dealt years ago with Samus saving her, and then Samus, just dropping on Aether, Angseth barely survives, and then Samus kind of patches her up, and then Samus just drops the rifle and says, "Hey, bye, bye, bye," and then she goes to save Aether from the Aang and stuff like that, and Vera's just trying to keep up with her. It's like, come here, you! I may not be able to walk, but I can still. And we have all these interlocking plots, like with the Chozo, with some of her crewmates. There's whatever the hell's up with Candon. There's the relationship between her and Briar, her boyfriend, which is I guess a cat alien sort of thing. He his ears go back and they twitch and stuff like that, like actual cat ears. All the shenanigans with evil, all the mystique surrounding Samus. Samus doesn't even say a word outside of a couple messages. She doesn't talk at all. So it leaves a lot of mystique over who Samus is in the story. Especially the whole reveal, she's a Metroid now. Spooky. And everything that happens. The plot, everything in terms of the plot until Act 3. Act 3 is when the plot kind of goes off the rails, but that's going to be at the end. Honestly, I can make an entire video separate, just say what's wrong with Angseth, because there's a lot wrong with Angseth in those last couple chapters that completely just derails the story and kind of stops it from being my new favorite fanfiction of all time, because it was a really good fanfiction until that point, until around chapter 27, around that point. Maybe a little bit sooner than that, little bits and pieces of chapter 26 if you're paying really close attention, depending on the writer. Depending on the reader, my bad. And stuff like that. Characters. There are a lot of characters. First off, let's get Angseth out of the way. Angseth is a really realistic character. She's a 40-something-year-old veteran of the Space Confederation. She's really headstrong. She's really stubborn. She's actually thick. The story even goes out of its way to say that she's not skinny. She's stocky. She's like Zarya from Overwatch. Picture Zarya but shorter. Really short. I think Zarya is 6-something. Vera is 5'4", I believe. She's around that point. So she's really stocky. She comes from a dense world where lots of people are really stocky and really barrel shaped, and she's muscular, but she's also really really feminine in certain ways. She has weird quirks. Whenever something happens, she giggles like a little girl. She's a really three-dimensional character. She has that addiction to that Phazon that goes on over the course of the story, which is a really nice touch. I think if not for the Phazon addiction, I think she probably would have been not a bad character, but not as refined and polished as she was with the addiction, because I think the addiction part of it kind of adds a really neat layer to her character. And, her stubbornness to, her body slowly being destroyed, legitimately slowly being destroyed. Like I said, she dies near the end of the story. That's how bad she gets. She actually dies for a couple hours. And, all throughout Act 3, she's actually a zombie. She's actually already dead, but her stubbornness and will to fix the wrong that she did actually was keeping her alive by the skin of her teeth. And she's a really well written character. I like what the author did over the course of the story of her constantly detoxing and trying to figure out everything that's going on, and her being this sort of really masculine chick, but at the same time keeping her femininity intact. Despite the fact she's really muscular and stocky, she's still a girl. She still has these needs, these urges, to want to dress up and pretty herself. Like, she doesn't care what guys think. Okay, I'm a girl. I'm still gonna outshoot y'all. Well, I'm still but I'm still a girl. She's a really realistic take on, something of a unconventional female main character. Samus is a really, really mystique character in this story. Like, a lot of Metroid stories, they try and keep her as silent as possible. I think Angseth did the best because, they kind of keep... A lot of stories, they kind of either keep her mystique, but they kind of have her talk a lot. I believe there's like a couple stories where she kind of disguised herself as a librarian. And so she was kind of chatty Cathy. But she kind of kept that mistake because she kept hyping up Samus as being like the end-all be-all, like invincible stuff like that. Well, in this story, a lot of her mystique goes in her body language and what happened to her and the consequences of the events of fusion. And her body slowly mutating from the combination of X DNA and Metroid DNA, kind of causing her to fuse with her suit and everything. So she's a really interesting take of Samus, because this Samus needed to have a whole less is more mentality about her, which was executed perfectly. Weevil is a character going through like a simple redemption arc. Like, he's the prince of the Gamma Fleet Pirates, and he calls himself I'm Prince of the Siafu, or Siafu, however you want to pronounce it. And it's a really simple plot involving his character, so it's like, it's done. Yeah, it's done before, but it's done well enough that I can't really complain. Like, sometimes as long as it's not done badly, I can't really hate the story. I can't really hate it, and his story is done simply enough that I can't really complain. Sarek and Sakul. Let me get the Briar, the cat guy. I really like Briar. He's basically plays off Angseth really, really well. He's the rock that constantly tries to curb in Angseth's kind of irrationality, her stubbornness, her hot-headedness, and everything. So he's a really good character. He's not as interesting as Angseth. I think he's more two-dimensional than Angseth, but that just means that Angseth is just that good as a character rather than Briar is a bad character. Like, he has his quirks, he has trouble controlling his ears. Like, people can read him really easy. He kind of gets nervous, and he's kind of overly, and he kind of doesn't know why Angseth has control of the whole ship when she doesn't do things by the book. He's a very by the books person who wants to try and be like Angseth, and try and get some of that unpredictability to him. But he's trying. He's a very human character. He's just not as good as his girlfriend. Sarek and Sakul are decent. They're basically Chozo that decides himself as humans. I mean, that's all I really need to say about them. They're okay. Nothing really bad about them. They're just, Sarek, trying to be a jokester and be a snarky guy, and Sakul being like a hot-headed. For some reason, I gave them Scottish accents when I read the story in their head. Whenever I got to a scene when they were talking, I for some reason gave them Scottish accents. Like, oh, I can't say a Scottish accent in my head and out of my mouth. Worth a dang. Hey, you want to fight? I try my best, mate. I try my best. Sorry. And then finally there is Ridley, aka Ciarius. The reveal that Ridley was a Chozo in the story was actually really well done. It was foreshadowed phenomenally. It actually took me the second read-through to kind of figure out the clues, but it was there. The fact in this story, Ciarius was a rogue Chozo. His motivations were like completely shrouded in mystery, as a good villain should be. Although I think it was too mysterious, and it wasn't really clarified at all throughout the story. And even at the end, it was like very, very vague. Um, the fact that he actually invented the Varia core, which actually caused him to create the Varia suit for Samus, was actually a really nice touch of storytelling, because that kind of gave Ridley kind of an in-story reason why he kept regenerating everything and how he kept coming back. So overall, a great cast of characters. Angseth is far away the best one of the whole group, but still a very great cast of characters. Grammar errors. Overall, I have no problem with the grammar errors. Near the end, for some reason, the author accidentally kept indenting spaces early for some reason. It kind of got annoying, because despite the fact it only really happened a few times, and that's really just near the end. Hey, die. Sorry, kill something. And I have no problems with their errors. It's still an annoyance, but it's nothing bad. There's no actual misspellings as far as I remember. There's no no missing commas, missing apostrophes, and all punctuation is done well. So let's just continue. Pacing is really good. I think maybe the story should have went on a little longer. That's just me. Because I think the whole Pentacle, the whole third act should have been a little longer. Also, the fights were really, really bad, except for the Weevil and the Ciarius Angseth fights and the Briar versus Weevil fights. Those are the only two fights I really liked. The final two fights were bad. Were just really bad. That's all I'm really gonna get into them. Angseth versus Samus, that wasn't really so much a fight as in storytelling moments where Angseth I'm pissed off, but then again it kind of becomes harsher in hindsight when you realize that she's dead, and so she's slowly kind of forgetting herself and losing herself. So it makes sense from a storytelling perspective how that fight played out, with just punching and then Angseth kind of curing Samus and overcharging her with Phazon and stuff like that. I really have no complaints about that. So that's it with the general review. I really like the plot. The cast of characters is really great. No problems there. Nothing wrong with the grammar, except for those weird early indents things. And the pacing is done very well. And everything is taken at the right time, right length. There's nothing drags on. This story could have dragged on if it wanted to, but it kept a brisk pace to entertain the readers, to give us enough details about what's happening in a certain scene, and then moving on once we realize, we're done with here. Let's just continue. We don't drag it on, or we don't get into it. The characters are explored as thoroughly as possible, depending on how often they were going to appear in the story. Sarek got more screen time, and therefore more thought processes and better pacing than Sakul, who doesn't show up as much. So everything's very balanced depending on how important the character is going to be in the whole grand scheme. Would I recommend the story? Yes, I would actually recommend the story. This is a phenomenal story that is done that perfectly encapsulates a space drama. Yes, I keep saying drama. Like I said, it's an adventure sci-fi. You can actually interchange either one of those with drama if you wanted. It's a very good story. It's a very good space drama, space adventure, sci-fi adventures. Just add drama to that genre, to that whole pile. It's all three. Favorite part. There are a lot of good parts in this story. There was first off, there was the frightening sequence in the Pentacle involving Angseth and Weevil getting chased by a bunch of mutated clones of Samus. That was actually pretty spooky. There was the fight between Weevil and Briar, which was actually pretty well done. There was the whole sequence where Angseth is on Aether to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Ing getting conquered. Of her meeting her old troops and and trying to just telling him to, it's time to let it go and everything. It's like, okay. It was a really touching moment. There's also anything to do with Candon. I wanted specifically to talk about Candon right here instead of characters. Candon was hilarious. Just picture a buggy bio-weapony Adam West. That is basically Candon in the story. Space maggot alien as portrayed by Adam West. He was hilarious. You can even, literally anything he says, even, the little speech he does. The speech is probably his highlight. It's like, there we go. It's like, you're gonna fight. We're gonna save this station. And, all the crippled Marines actually kind of agree. Yeah, we have to fight. We have to do this. Yeah! And there's even one who has one arm, and he's like, yes, we must continue fighting. And literally a squad of wounded Marines get encouraged by a bug alien and decide to go save a space station. It's quirky, and especially at the end where Candon kind of calls Vera his daddy. He said, come to Papa. and then Angseth kind of faints, so because when Angseth was brought back to life, they used Candon's DNA, so in a way he's kind of her father. Who's your daddy? There was the whole sequence there's a whole Seattle sequence. There was the whole sequence with Angseth fighting Ciaria / Ridley. That was done really well. There was a lot of moments that I really, really, really liked. But if I had to pick one standout moment, it would probably have to be, what was that moment? It was during Act 2. It was during Act 2. I think it was... Oh yeah, the Rovian chase scene. Pretty much all of chapter... I believe it was chapter 18. I think it's chapter 18. And so... basically the entire chapter. All of chapter 18. From them going onto Rovian, to them chasing Svensson, to being attacked by the clone Samuses. Everything was really, really tense and really, really fun. And that also lumps in the Briar versus Weevil fight. That entire chapter was really, really well done. Now, what would I change to the story? There's a lot I would change the story. Like I said, this is one of those stories that I can easily make a video just talking about what's wrong with the story and what needs to be improved. Let me sum it up. All of Act 3, the epilogue needs to go. That epilogue is so stupid. Basically, the epilogue is a minor character named Jones. He's just working on the cryopods from the Seattle, and then this dumb rich lady girl shows up and says, I'm retiring, and she gets a bottle of spirits, and then she's like, hey, I want to go see the stars, and it's basically just one big brick joke over something that happens earlier in the story. So they say some people literally long-term cryostasis themselves just so they can get rich and retire at an early age. And this is basically just a brick joke. Get rid of that. That's so stupid. The whole Samus telling Angseth, good luck, see you next mission. That was a great ending. There should not have been an epilogue. Just at all. A lot of Act 3. There's a couple characters that I would like to fix. All of Act 3 needed to be improved on. It's just there's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed. Do you think I should make a video just talking about what's wrong with Angseth? Leave it in the comment section below. So that's my review of Angseth. I really like the story. Ignore the noises in the background if you hear it. So this has been Dark Symphony 777. And I really have nothing to say about the story. I'm just happy to be back in action with these reviews and readings. And cut.